AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée handle my niece's birthday party after she volunteered. So, I, 28F, have a niece, Emma, who just turned 6. I've always been very close to her, and honestly, I've always enjoyed organizing her birthday parties. I've done the last 3 myself, and while it can be stressful, I love picking the theme, the decorations, the games, and even the cake. I know my family would step in if I asked for help, but I genuinely enjoy doing it myself because it makes me feel connected to her. This year, my brother, Mark, 32M, got engaged to his fiancée, Lisa, 29F, who I have a complicated relationship with. I've tried to be polite and friendly, but Lisa has a history of being very controlling and judgmental about how others do things. She tends to insist her way is the right way and is very vocal when she disagrees with someone, which makes interaction stressful. About 2 months before Emma's birthday, Lisa casually mentioned at a family dinner, "Oh, I'd love to organize Emma's party this year. I've got some really cute ideas." Everyone laughed and thought she was joking. I smiled awkwardly and said, "Thanks, but I usually handle it. I really enjoy planning it for her." Lisa insisted, saying she just wanted to help out and that she had some amazing creative ideas. I politely repeated that I had it covered. A few days later, Mark texted me, saying Lisa really wants to do the party this year and that I should let her take the lead. I felt a pit in my stomach because I knew from past interactions that if I let her plan it, she would likely ignore what Emma wants and turn it into something very different. I said no, explaining that I enjoy planning Emma's parties, and this year I wanted it to be something Emma specifically requested. Mark replied saying I was being unreasonable and hogging the fun, and that Lisa was only trying to be involved. A week later, Lisa called me and started going through a long list of improvements she wanted to make, including changing the theme from the unicorn theme Emma picked months ago to something she thought would be cuter for Instagram. I told her that the theme was already decided with Emma and that I didn't want to change it. She got visibly annoyed and said, "You're always doing everything your way. I just want to contribute." I explained that helping Emma plan the party with her input was one thing, but completely taking over the party was not something I was willing to do. A few more arguments happened over text where she kept trying to assert herself over small details. Table decorations, the cake design, even the games we were going to play. I repeatedly told her that I would appreciate any help she wanted to offer, like coming early to set up or helping clean afterward, but that the planning was mine. The day of the party came, and I stuck to my plan. Emma was thrilled. Her unicorn cake was perfect, the decorations were exactly how she wanted, and she genuinely had the best time. However, Lisa spent the whole party loudly pointing out things she would have done differently and making passive-aggressive comments about how she couldn't believe how chaotic everything was. She snapped at a couple of the other kids' parents when they didn't follow her suggestions and kept trying to rearrange games in the middle of activities. After the party, Mark called me, furious. He said I had completely shut Lisa out and that it was her chance to bond with Emma, and I had ruined it. I tried to explain that I encouraged her to help in ways that didn't involve taking control, but he accused me of being controlling and selfish. The rest of my family is divided. My mom thinks I overreacted a bit, but understands why I didn't want to hand the party over to Lisa. My dad thinks I was right and that Lisa's behavior was inappropriate. Some cousins are saying I should have just let Lisa do it to avoid conflict, but honestly, seeing Emma so happy makes me feel like I did the right thing. I can't shake the feeling that I'm being accused of being the villain just because I set boundaries, but Mark keeps insisting that I should learn to share and that I always have to get my way. I genuinely feel like I tried to compromise and include Lisa in ways that wouldn't affect the party itself, but apparently that wasn't enough for them. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée take over my niece's birthday party, even though she wanted to help. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to babysit my brother's kids after he repeatedly disrespected my time and boundaries. I, 27F, have always been the reliable sibling. I have a stable job, I live alone, and over the years, I've often helped my younger brother, Mike, 24M, and his wife, Jenna, 25F, with their 2 kids, Lily, 5, and Max, 3. I genuinely like the kids, and I like being involved in their lives, but I also have my limits. Recently, I realized that Mike and Jenna have been taking my help for granted, and I finally reached a breaking point. Now, they're upset with me, and I'm unsure if I went too far. It started about 2 months ago. Mike and Jenna were going on a weekend trip and asked if I could watch Lily and Max from Friday evening to Sunday night. I had made plans with friends weeks in advance, but they insisted I could just cancel because they had no one else. I reminded them of my plans politely and suggested they consider asking their parents or another relative. Mike got defensive and said, "You always say no when it's inconvenient for you. Can't you just help us this once?" I explained that I had already committed to my friends, but he insisted. I ended up saying yes reluctantly because I didn't want to start a fight, and I canceled my plans. The weekend was stressful. The kids are energetic, and Lily had a cold, which meant I spent most of the time cleaning up after her and comforting her. I didn't complain at the time, but I noticed that Mike and Jenna hadn't even asked how things were going while they were gone. They just expected me to manage everything flawlessly. After they got back, I mentioned how exhausting it had been, and Jenna said, "Well, you knew it would be hard. You didn't have to take it on if you didn't want to." I felt dismissed because I had basically sacrificed my weekend to help them. A week later, they asked me to babysit again, this time for a few hours during the evening while they went to a work event. I said no, explaining that I needed to catch up on work and rest because the previous weekend had been draining. Mike and Jenna were upset and said I was being selfish. They said, "It's just a couple of hours. You have no idea how much we need this." I try to explain that I help when I can, but I also have limits. They didn't seem to care. Fast forward a few days, Mike called me out of the blue and asked me to watch the kids for a whole week because they had to travel for a family emergency. This time, I said no immediately. I told him I have work and personal commitments that I cannot cancel. I also reminded him that they have other options, like hiring a babysitter or asking their parents, but he got angry and accused me of not caring about the family. I was frustrated because I had been consistently helping them, sometimes sacrificing my time and energy, and it felt like they were trying to guilt me into dropping everything again. The next day, Jenna texted me, saying, "We can't believe you won't help. We thought family should come first. Lily and Max love you, and now they'll be sad." I replied that I love them too, but I am not available for an entire week and that repeatedly ignoring my boundaries is not okay. She responded with a long message saying I was heartless and selfish and that I should rethink my priorities. Here's where it gets complicated. My parents got involved after hearing about the argument. They said I should be more accommodating because it's my brother's family, and they could see me as a bad sister if I keep refusing. I understand the sentiment, but I feel like my parents are overlooking how often I already help and the fact that I have my own life. I'm willing to babysit occasionally, but I refuse to be treated like a backup parent or to have my boundaries ignored. I've also noticed that Mike and Jenna tend to treat favors as obligations. For example, if I say yes to helping, they assume I'm available anytime and never thank me in a meaningful way. On the rare occasion I do ask for help or suggest a trade, they act annoyed. This pattern has been draining, and I realized it's not sustainable for my mental health or my personal life. Recently, I politely declined another request to babysit and suggested they find a professional babysitter for the week. Mike blew up, saying, "We can't rely on anyone else. You're being ridiculous." Jenna said I was turning my back on the family. I haven't responded because I'm tired of arguing. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my nieces and nephew, but I also don't want to be guilted into constantly sacrificing my time. Now, Mike and Jenna are giving me the silent treatment, my parents are subtly suggesting I should make it up to them, and my cousins have started asking if I'm being mean. I genuinely think I'm being fair by saying no to a week-long commitment and insisting on boundaries, but the backlash is making me second-guess myself. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to babysit my brother's kids after repeatedly being asked to sacrifice my own plans and ignoring my boundaries. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a dress code dispute. So, I, 25F, have a younger sister, Emily, 23F, and she's been engaged for about a year now. She's always been a bit controlling, to put it lightly, but I've usually been okay with it. We get along most of the time, but we definitely have our differences. Recently, she got married, and that's where the drama started. Emily is having a relatively small wedding with around 80 guests, but she made it very clear that she has strict rules regarding how everyone should dress. For context, I'm a little unconventional with fashion. I don't like tight dresses or anything overly formal. I usually wear something slightly loose, long dresses or jumpsuits, and I almost never wear high heels. I don't hate getting dressed up, but I prioritize comfort and feeling like myself. When she sent out the wedding invite, it had a dress code, formal black tie. I didn't think much of it at first because I assumed most people would just rent or buy a dress that fit the requirement. I have a few formal dresses, but most are cocktail length, not floor-length gowns. I mentioned this casually to Emily, and her response was that everyone has to look perfect. It's my special day, so there's no room for flexibility. I thought that was fair in theory, but she then added, and no jumpsuits, only dresses, and not short ones, and heels are mandatory. I felt a bit taken aback. I don't own any dress that meets all of these conditions. I considered buying or renting one, but even the rental stores near me had long wait times, and most gowns were very expensive. I offered to wear a dress I already owned, but she immediately said, "It's too casual. You'll ruin my pictures if you don't follow the dress code." At this point, I started feeling extremely stressed. I explained that I'm not comfortable in high heels for extended periods and that wearing a dress that doesn't suit me would make me feel self-conscious, which could affect how I interact with everyone at the wedding. She responded by accusing me of making her wedding about me and said that if I cared about her, I would follow her rules without complaining. The situation escalated when I suggested a compromise. What if I wore a long, formal-looking jumpsuit with elegant shoes? That way, I could meet the formal standard without completely sacrificing my comfort. She flat out refused, saying, "No jumpsuits. Dress. Heels." End of discussion. A week later, I told her that I couldn't attend because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable and I didn't want to risk tension on her special day. She went absolutely ballistic. She told me I was selfish, that I was choosing myself over her happiness, and that I clearly didn't care about her or the family. Our parents got involved, and they're kind of on her side, saying it's her wedding, she should have her way. But my mom also said she could understand why I wouldn't want to attend, which is the only support I got. I did try to compromise multiple times. I offered to wear one of her suggestions if she helped me pick something that could actually fit me and wasn't insanely expensive. I even offered to wear heels for part of the day, then switch to something more comfortable. Emily said no every time. I've since heard from a few friends who were invited that my absence caused a lot of tension at the wedding. Apparently, Emily spent part of the reception talking about how my sister didn't care enough to dress properly for my wedding, and some extended family members even questioned why I wasn't there. Honestly, I feel guilty, but at the same time, I know I would have been miserable the entire day if I went just to appease her. Since then, our relationship has been strained. Emily hasn't spoken to me except for a few tense texts, and our parents are constantly asking me if I'm going to make the first move to mend things. I feel like they don't really understand why I didn't go. This wasn't about me being disrespectful. It was about me being uncomfortable in a situation where I had no way to meet her expectations without compromising myself. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding over a dress code dispute. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he treated my dog badly. I, 27F, have a dog named Charlie. He's a medium-sized rescue, about 5 years old, super friendly, and basically my little shadow. He's been with me since I was 19, so he's a huge part of my life. My sister, Amanda, 30F, has been engaged for a year to a guy named Blake, 32M. I've met him a few times at family events and didn't think much of him initially. He seemed polite enough, though a bit too loud and self-centered for my taste. The main issue began a couple of months ago when Amanda asked if Blake could stay at my apartment for a weekend. Her reasoning was that they were visiting our parents' town for a wedding and wanted somewhere central to stay since hotels were expensive. Normally, I don't mind having family over, but I made it clear that Charlie is extremely sensitive around strangers. He's fine with visitors, but he doesn't like men with deep voices or aggressive energy, and Blake's the kind of guy who laughs loudly, talks over people, and generally doesn't respect personal space. I told Amanda that I wasn't comfortable having him stay with us because of Charlie. Amanda argued that I was overreacting and that Blake would be fine. I finally agreed to let him come for one night, thinking that maybe I was being too protective. The weekend came, and as soon as Blake arrived, things went downhill. Charlie immediately got anxious and wouldn't stop barking. Blake started teasing him, saying things like, "Oh, you're such a little baby," and pushing him gently when Charlie tried to move away. I asked him to stop multiple times, and Amanda laughed it off, saying I was too sensitive. Blake then proceeded to pick up Charlie by the scruff of his neck. Not in a playful way, just lifted him off the ground while laughing. Charlie yelped and struggled, and I was horrified. I told Blake again to put him down. He muttered something about it being a dog and that I was overreacting. The situation escalated when Blake started making jokes about training dogs by being dominant. He grabbed Charlie's paw and tried to force him to sit properly. And when Charlie bit his hand, Blake got angry and yelled. I stepped in immediately, and Amanda got defensive, saying I was ruining the weekend mood, and that Blake wasn't trying to hurt the dog. Eventually, I told both of them that Blake needed to leave. Amanda stormed off, saying I was crazy for treating him like a criminal. After that weekend, Amanda has been sending me passive-aggressive texts, saying I'm being unfair, that I don't trust Blake, and that I'm forcing her to choose between her dog and her fiancé. She keeps bringing it up at family gatherings, and now my parents are subtly suggesting that maybe I should give Blake a chance since he's their future son-in-law. I refuse to let him stay at my place again. I feel like protecting my dog is non-negotiable, especially since Blake showed clear disregard for his well-being. Some friends say I might have overreacted by making it a hard no instead of setting rules for his stay, like keeping him in a crate or having me supervised constantly. But honestly, I don't trust Blake around Charlie anymore, and I don't want to put either of us through that stress again. Amanda claims I'm being unreasonable and selfish for not accommodating her fiancé, and some extended family members have hinted that I'm creating tension in the family by refusing to host him. So, AITA for not letting my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment after he treated my dog poorly, even though it's causing family drama? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her dog to my wedding? I, 26F, am getting married in 6 months, and the planning has been going fairly smoothly, except for one ongoing issue with my younger sister, Emily, 23F. Emily has always been the wild card in our family, super independent, a bit impulsive, but also extremely attached to her dog, Baxter, a medium-sized rescue with anxiety issues. Emily got Baxter when she was 21 and immediately treated him like a child rather than a pet. She posts about him constantly on social media, talks to him as if he's a human, and honestly, I think she dotes on him more than most people do on their actual children. When I got engaged, my fiancé, Jason, 28M, and I immediately started thinking about our wedding. We wanted something classic but simple with a small guest list, outdoors at a local botanical garden. We agreed to allow a few pets in the ceremony, but only in a very limited, controlled capacity, like my cousin's ring bearer cat or a friend's well-behaved dog. I knew Emily would push to bring Baxter, but I honestly didn't think she'd try to make a big deal. Fast forward to 2 months ago, Emily casually mentioned at dinner that she was planning to bring Baxter and that he would sit front row with her during the ceremony. I laughed nervously and said, "Emily, we can't really allow Baxter to be in the ceremony. The venue has strict pet rules, and it's just too risky. He's anxious around crowds." She rolled her eyes and said, "He's not like other dogs. He won't cause a scene. And besides, it's my big sister's wedding. I should be allowed to bring my family." I tried reasoning with her, explaining the logistics. The venue doesn't allow pets inside the main garden area. It could be unsafe for Baxter if he panics. And what if he decides to run off mid-ceremony? She accused me of being unreasonable and not caring about what's important to her. And that was the first time I realized this was going to become a full-blown argument. We went back and forth a few times over text. I suggested alternatives, like having a professional dog handler with Baxter outside the venue while Emily attends the ceremony. She flat out refused, saying it defeats the purpose and that she won't be separated from him for 3 hours. At that point, I drew a hard line and told her the truth. Emily, I love you, but this is my wedding, not yours. I cannot allow Baxter to be at the ceremony. He's welcome at the after party if you can keep him under control, but the ceremony itself is off limits. Her response was immediate and dramatic. She called me selfish, insensitive, and said that if I didn't allow Baxter, she wouldn't attend the wedding at all. My parents are on her side, saying I should compromise for family harmony and that it's just a dog, not a big deal. My fiancée is firmly behind me, pointing out that compromising on the wedding for a dog sets a precedent I'm not comfortable with. The situation escalated further when she started posting on social media, tagging me, and writing things like, "Excited to finally attend my sister's wedding. If she lets me bring Baxter," which made several of our mutual friends start commenting and asking me why I'm so mean to Emily. I tried to respond politely, explaining the venue rules, but she keeps turning it into a personal attack against me. I reached out to my parents privately and explained my side calmly, saying that this isn't about being mean but about safety, venue rules, and keeping the day as stress-free as possible. My mother said she understood, but my father said, "You're making her out to be unreasonable, but she's just hurt. Can't you see it from her perspective?" I feel like no matter how carefully I explain, it's always interpreted as me being cruel. Last weekend, Emily came over unannounced and showed up with Baxter anyway. She insisted we try him out in the garden to see that he could behave. I told her firmly again, and she got upset, saying she can't believe I would exclude her family from such an important day. I ended up asking her to leave, and she stormed out, texting me afterward that I was killing our relationship over a dog. My fiancé thinks I handled it correctly, but now I'm feeling guilty. I know it's her only dog, and I know she's very attached, but I also feel like I should not compromise on my wedding day. I've tried to offer alternatives, like having a professional take care of Baxter during the ceremony, having a special photo session with him, or including him in a private brunch afterward, but nothing seems acceptable to her. So Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her dog to my wedding? I'm genuinely torn because I love her and I want her there, but I also don't want my wedding to become a stressful, chaotic day because someone refuses to follow rules. Character count, 6,502 if you want. I can write 2 more long, different AITA stories in this style, so you have a small collection of highly shareable originals. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a family tradition she expects me to honor. I, 26F, have a complicated relationship with my family, especially my younger sister, Emily, 24F. Growing up, my parents always emphasized tradition in a way that sometimes felt suffocating. One of these traditions is what they call the family vow. Every firstborn child must wear a specific handmade heirloom necklace at major life events, including weddings, graduations, and milestone birthdays. The necklace itself isn't the problem. It's that it's incredibly uncomfortable, heavy, and has caused me skin irritation my entire life. My parents insist that it's non-negotiable because it's about family honor and continuing our lineage. Emily has never had an issue with the necklace. She loves it, flaunts it, and has even boasted to friends about how beautiful and meaningful it is. I, on the other hand, have always disliked it. Every time I try to talk to my parents about it, they get defensive, calling me ungrateful and saying I'm disrespecting our heritage. Over the years, I've found ways to minimize my exposure, like wearing it for short periods or hiding it during family gatherings, but I've never been able to completely avoid it. Fast forward to the present. Emily is getting married next spring. The wedding is supposed to be huge, over 300 guests, all the pomp and circumstance you can imagine. When I got the invitation, I was thrilled for her. But then came the attached family tradition checklist from my mom. According to it, as the eldest sibling, I am expected to wear the heirloom necklace, stand at the altar during the ceremony, give a speech highlighting my role in the family's lineage, wear the necklace again at the rehearsal dinner, bridal shower, and post-wedding brunch. The request might seem reasonable on paper, but for me, it felt like the culmination of years of being forced into uncomfortable traditions. I emailed my mom explaining that I am willing to stand by Emily, give a speech, and be present for her wedding, but I cannot wear the necklace due to the severe skin reactions I've had in the past and my general discomfort with the item. I also suggested that Emily could give the necklace to someone else in the family if she really wants it to be displayed. The response was immediate and hostile. My mom said that refusing to wear the necklace is a betrayal of everything our family stands for, and that Emily would be deeply hurt if I don't comply. My dad chimed in, saying that family honor comes before personal preference. Emily, surprisingly, texted me later saying, "I don't care about the necklace, just come and support me." I thought we were good, but then my mom sent another email, much more aggressive this time, essentially threatening that if I show up without the necklace, I should not bother coming at all because it would ruin the ceremony and embarrass the family. At this point, I was furious. It felt like they were trying to manipulate me into choosing a piece of jewelry over my own comfort and boundaries. I decided to talk to Emily in person. We met for coffee, and I explained the full situation. My past experiences with the necklace, my health concerns, and the latest emails from our parents. Emily was understanding at first, but then said, "I guess my mom is right. It's part of our tradition. I don't want my wedding to become a scene. Maybe you just shouldn't come if you won't wear it." Hearing this broke my heart. I've always wanted to be there for her, and the thought of missing her wedding over a necklace felt absurd. I tried one last compromise. I suggested I could wear a lightweight replica, something that wouldn't irritate my skin but would satisfy their need for tradition. My mom responded with a flat-out no. Only the original heirloom will do. So, I made the decision to decline the invitation. I wrote Emily a heartfelt letter explaining my choice, emphasizing how much I love her, how proud I am of her, and that I will celebrate her marriage in any way I can outside the wedding itself. I haven't spoken directly to my parents since. Unsurprisingly, the fallout has been intense. My parents have labeled me as selfish and disloyal. My extended family has been divided. Some think I'm standing up for my personal boundaries. Others say I'm disrespecting my sister. Emily has been distant too, although she hasn't outright cut me off. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I won't wear the heirloom necklace? I feel like this is about me finally setting boundaries, but my parents see it as a betrayal, and Emily seems torn between us. I just want to know if I'm wrong for choosing my comfort and health over a tradition that I've never been able to embrace. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding after she publicly humiliated my sister. 25F, have always been close with my sister, Emma, 28F. We've had our ups and downs, but when it comes to family, we always have each other's backs. Our extended family, however, has always been a little dramatic. My cousin, Rachel, 27F, is notorious for being very image-conscious and for needing everything to go exactly her way. I've tried to avoid getting involved in her drama over the years, but recently, things escalated, and I'm wondering if I overreacted. It all started last month when Rachel announced her wedding date. She was ecstatic, naturally, and she wanted it to be a perfect, Instagram-worthy event. She sent out the invites early, giving plenty of notice, which I thought was nice. The problem started when she began putting pressure on everyone about what to wear. She sent out a group message telling us that only certain dress colors were acceptable, and she even included a mood board of approved makeup and hairstyles. While I thought this was over the top, I didn't think it was worth arguing about. The real issue arose when she asked Emma to be a bridesmaid. Emma politely declined because she was going through a stressful period at work and didn't feel she could commit to all the pre-wedding events. Rachel didn't take no for an answer and tried to guilt her into agreeing. Emma stood firm, and Rachel seemed to grudgingly accept it. Fast forward to the rehearsal dinner. I had been feeling uneasy about attending, given Rachel's previous behavior, but I wanted to support my sister and avoid drama. The night started fine, but things quickly went downhill. During dinner, Rachel made a toast to family who actually show up and look perfect doing it. She then singled out Emma, loudly announcing that she respected my sister's dedication to her career, but it was unfortunate she couldn't contribute to making the wedding flawless. She went on to describe Emma's outfit in front of everyone, mocking it for being practical but boring, and concluded with a sarcastic remark about how some people just don't care about appearances. Emma was visibly hurt and left the dinner early, crying. I stayed to try and calm things down, but Rachel ignored me and continued to make snide remarks to other family members. I was furious, and I decided that I couldn't support someone who would publicly humiliate my sister like that. I left soon after Emma, and we went home together. The next day, Rachel sent me a long text, asking why I wasn't excited for the wedding and accusing me of being dramatic and unsupportive. I responded honestly, explaining that I couldn't attend a celebration hosted by someone who treated my sister that way. I told her I would be happy to celebrate with her privately at some other time, but I could not be part of an event that was humiliating my family. That's when things escalated. Rachel posted a vague story on social media about family members who can't celebrate without bringing negativity, and tagged me. She also sent a group message to the rest of the family, framing me as overreacting and refusing to share in her joy. Several cousins and aunts/uncles messaged me privately, asking if I had ruined everything or if I was being too harsh. Some sided with Rachel, saying I should have stayed for the sake of family harmony, while others expressed that Rachel had been out of line. Since then, I haven't attended any of the pre-wedding events, and Rachel has made it very clear she's upset. My sister is grateful for my support, but now I'm dealing with the fallout of everyone else calling me dramatic or selfish. I honestly feel I did the right thing by standing up for my sister, but I'm starting to question whether I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have confronted Rachel privately before the rehearsal dinner, but I'm also not sure that would have changed anything. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding after she publicly humiliated my sister. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after a huge fight at my engagement party. So this is going to be a long one because there's a lot of backstory, but I'll try to keep it coherent. I, 27F, recently got engaged to my boyfriend, Dan, 29M, and we're currently in the middle of planning our wedding. My sister, Lily, 25F, has been engaged for almost a year now, but she and her fiancé, Mark, 28M, have had a rocky relationship with a lot of drama, mostly caused by Mark being very hot-headed and controlling. I've always tried to stay neutral and not interfere, but I did notice early on that he could be overbearing and, honestly, a little manipulative at times. A couple of weeks ago, I hosted my engagement party at my house. We invited close friends and family, keeping it relatively small. Lily and Mark were invited, of course, and I had explicitly told them the guest list and expectations ahead of time. I had also told everyone no alcohol beyond what was served, and no behavior that would make anyone uncomfortable. I really wanted this to be a joyful celebration, not another one of those nights where family tensions boiled over. For context, Mark has always had a tendency to drink a little too much and gets argumentative when he's drunk. I made sure we had enough food, drinks, and activities to keep the atmosphere friendly and light. Everything started fine, but a little after dinner, Mark started making passive-aggressive comments to Dan about spending too much money on the party. At first, it was subtle, like joking about how weddings are overpriced these days, but it quickly escalated. By the time the dessert was being served, he was loudly criticizing every detail of the party, saying things like, "Wow, you really went all out for a few people, and are you sure you can afford this?" I tried to defuse it politely, telling him we were just celebrating and everyone was happy, but he wouldn't stop. Then he started making digs at me directly, saying things about how I never include my sister in anything, and implying that I was only doing this for social media. At this point, I got fed up and asked him to step outside for a minute so we could talk privately. Instead, he turned it into a spectacle, making louder remarks and almost yelling at me in front of all the guests. The situation escalated when he shoved a chair in frustration and accidentally knocked over one of the decorations I'd spent hours making. My mother jumped in, trying to calm him down, but he snapped at her too. Dan tried to get him to leave, but Mark refused and started yelling at Dan as well, accusing him of ruining his fiancée's life. At that moment, I realized the party was completely out of control, and I told everyone else to stay seated while I called a cab for Mark. He didn't like that, of course, and started screaming even more, insisting that he wasn't leaving until he apologized in front of everyone. At this point, my guests were uncomfortable, and a few started leaving early. After about 20 minutes of shouting and threats to call the police, he finally left in the cab, muttering insults the entire way. The rest of the night was tense, and my sister barely spoke to me afterward, though she later said she understood the situation. I thought that would be the end of it. Fast forward to a week ago, Lily called me in a panic. Mark had apparently gotten into a fight with her parents at their house and was banned for staying there. She asked if he could stay at my place for a couple of nights while they worked things out. I said no immediately, explaining that he had been violent and disruptive at my engagement party and that I wasn't comfortable having him in my home. Lily begged, saying that he was her fiancé and she needed him. And I tried to reason with her calmly, but she started crying and saying that I was choosing my fiancé over my family. I held my ground, saying that my house is my safe space and I will not have someone in my home who has been aggressive and disruptive. She accused me of being unreasonable and selfish, and since then, our communication has been tense. My parents seem to understand my position, though they are disappointed that the sisters are not getting along. Lily has told several family members that I refuse to help her in a crisis and that I'm cold and cruel, which has made family gatherings awkward. I feel like I did the right thing because Mark has a history of explosive behavior, and I simply cannot risk my home, my belongings, or my peace of mind. I offered alternative suggestions like helping her find a hotel, but she refuses to consider anything except having him stay with me. Some friends have told me that I might be too harsh and that I should prioritize family over comfort, while others completely support me. So AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after he caused chaos at my engagement party? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding after she made a huge demand that I feel is unreasonable. I, 26F, have always been really close to my extended family, especially my cousins. My mom has 6 siblings, and we usually gather for holidays, birthdays, and the occasional weekend barbecue. Among all my cousins, the one I'm closest to is Emma, 27F. We've practically grown up together, and while our friendship has had its ups and downs like any family relationship, we always make an effort to stay connected. Emma recently got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, and the wedding planning started almost immediately. When she first announced the date, I was thrilled. I had been looking forward to attending her wedding since she told me she got engaged. But a few weeks ago, she called me with a request that completely threw me off. She told me that she and her fiancé were making the wedding a technology-free event. That meant no phones, no cameras, no outside social media posts, no texting. Basically, she wanted everyone to be completely unplugged during the ceremony and reception. At first, I thought, okay, that's unusual, but not impossible. People have their own preferences for weddings. But then she said something that really upset me. She said that because of this, everyone attending the wedding must pay to rent professional outfits from a company she and her fiancé were working with. She explained that they were trying to maintain a certain aesthetic for the photos, which would all be taken by a single professional photographer and distributed later. The rentals were not cheap. She sent me the list, and it ranged from $300 to $600 per person. She said there was no room for exceptions, no bringing your own dress or suit. She even mentioned that if anyone refused, they simply weren't allowed to attend. I froze when she told me this. I've never paid that much to attend a wedding, and honestly, my budget can't handle it. I'm a teacher, living paycheck to paycheck, and $400, which is roughly what the average outfit would cost me, is a huge deal for me. I told her I needed to think about it, and that it sounded really expensive, but I didn't outright say no at first because I wanted to be diplomatic. Over the next few days, I tried to consider her perspective, I get that weddings are expensive and people want to look a certain way, but asking guests to essentially rent formal clothing from a specific company feels extreme. Most weddings I've been to let people wear whatever they want as long as it fits a general dress code. I thought maybe I could talk to her about it, suggest a compromise, or even offer to wear something I already own. But every time I brought it up, she insisted it was non-negotiable. I decided to explain my situation honestly. I called her and said, "Emma, I love you, and I really want to be there for your big day, but I can't afford the outfit rental. I hope you understand." She immediately got defensive and accused me of being cheap and not supportive. She said, "This isn't about money. It's about respect for our vision. If you really cared about me and this day, you'd find a way." I tried to reason with her, saying that attending doesn't need to be conditional on spending an amount that makes me financially uncomfortable, but she didn't budge. After that conversation, I felt horrible. I wanted to support her, but I also can't just drop $400 on an outfit without causing serious strain on my finances. I consider maybe taking a second job or asking my parents to help, but even then, it seemed wrong to go into debt just to satisfy a wedding rule. I also didn't want resentment to build, because that would overshadow the event for me. A few days later, I told her I wouldn't be attending. I tried to phrase it gently. "I'm so sad that I won't be able to make it, but I just can't afford the outfit rental. I hope your wedding is beautiful, and I'll be thinking of you." She responded by posting a long message on our family group chat, essentially calling me selfish, inconsiderate, and implying that my absence would ruin her day. Several other family members chimed in, with some agreeing with her and others saying I shouldn't be shamed for financial limitations. I reached out to my mom, who said she understood my perspective and that Emma's demands were unreasonable. My dad was more blunt and said, "It's a shame, but sometimes family expectations get wild. Don't put yourself in a bad position over it." Now, some family members are subtly criticizing me at holiday gatherings, saying things like, "Well, I guess not everyone will be there for Emma's big day," which I know is directed at me. I feel caught in a weird spot. I love Emma, but I feel completely justified in refusing to go under these circumstances. I also can't help but feel that her insistence on this very expensive, rigid demand is extreme and unfair. I want to maintain a relationship with her, but I'm not sure how. Every time I try to contact her, it's met with anger or passive-aggressive remarks. I don't know if this is something that will blow over, or if our relationship will be permanently strained over this. I also can't help but wonder if I'm the asshole for simply saying no to her wedding under these conditions. So, Reddit, AITA here for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding after she demanded everyone rent expensive outfits for a technology-free event? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he excluded me from an important part of it? So this is going to be long, but I need to get everything out. My 27M brother, 30M, let's call him Jason, is getting married in about 2 months. I have always been close to Jason, although we've had our share of disagreements over the years. Growing up, we fought like any siblings, but as adults, we've generally gotten along well. Until recently, the issue started a few weeks ago. Jason and his fiancée, whom I'll call Emily, were finalizing the guest list and wedding plans. I knew that the wedding was going to be big, and I honestly didn't expect to be involved in much beyond attending. However, what I didn't expect was to find out that there was a part of the wedding that I was completely excluded from, the rehearsal dinner. Now, I understand that some people like to keep rehearsal dinner small, but in our family, it's almost a tradition that siblings are invited. In past weddings within the family, all siblings have been part of the rehearsal dinner, even if it was just a simple dinner with a wedding party. So, naturally, I assumed I'd be invited. A few days before the rehearsal dinner, I asked Jason casually if he'd sent out invites yet. He told me that he hadn't and seemed a little hesitant, so I asked again, hoping to get a clear answer. That's when he said that Emily and he had decided to keep the rehearsal dinner just immediate family and the wedding party, and that he didn't think I should come. I was blindsided. I asked why, and he said it was mostly because Emily didn't want extra stress with people not in the wedding party. I tried explaining that I wasn't trying to add stress, and I would happily just be there quietly, but he brushed it off. He said he was sorry, but it's just how we want to do it. At this point, I felt hurt, but I tried to let it go. I didn't want to ruin things before the wedding. But then, things got worse. A mutual friend of ours texted me a photo of the rehearsal dinner invite that Jason had posted in a group chat with some extended family. My name was nowhere to be seen. Instead, he had written in big letters, "Sorry, sibling not invited." Yes, literally written like that. I was stunned and honestly a little embarrassed. I confronted Jason about it, and he said that Emily insisted he do that because she didn't want me there. I asked why, and he said it was complicated, but basically Emily thought I might make a scene or bring up family drama because I've spoken up about things in the past. I was honestly shocked. I've never been someone to ruin weddings or parties, and I couldn't believe that my presence was being viewed as a threat. After a long discussion, he said he wouldn't change it and that I could still attend the wedding itself, but he made it very clear that the rehearsal dinner was off limits. I told him that I felt hurt and excluded, but he seemed firm. A few days later, I was thinking about it more. I realized that if I went to the wedding after being treated this way, I would be forced to pretend like everything was fine while feeling sidelined and unimportant. I also felt like Emily had a lot of influence over this decision and that my brother hadn't stood up for me at all. After discussing it with a few friends and my parents, I made the decision to not attend the wedding at all. I sent Jason a message explaining that I couldn't in good conscience go if I wasn't considered part of the family celebration in the way I had been my whole life. I told him I loved him and that I was happy for him, but I couldn't ignore being treated as less than a sibling. His response was not great. He called me dramatic, self-centered, and said that I was making this about me instead of supporting his special day. Emily apparently got involved and said that it was ridiculous that I was upset over a dinner. They also texted some family members saying that I chose to boycott the wedding, which made me look like the villain in some eyes. Now, some friends are telling me that I might have overreacted and that I should have gone to the wedding anyway. I get that they're saying that, but I feel like the rehearsal dinner was symbolic. I felt completely excluded, and it wasn't even about logistics. It was about deliberately leaving me out. I also feel that by standing my ground, I'm showing that I have boundaries and won't be treated like an afterthought. My parents are upset with me too. They think I should have gone, that it's my brother's day, and that I'm letting pride get in the way of family. My friends say I'm justified, but a few others say I'm being petty. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because he excluded me from the rehearsal dinner and, in my eyes, treated me like I didn't matter in the family celebration. I can provide more context about our family dynamics and previous incidents if needed, but this is the core of the situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me after she lost her job. I, 29F, have always been pretty independent. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment that I absolutely love. I worked really hard to get to a place where I'm financially stable, and I enjoy the freedom of being on my own. My sister, Emily, 27F, has had a much rougher time. She's bounced around jobs for years and tends to live paycheck to paycheck. She's also very emotionally dependent on others, which I've dealt with for most of my adult life. A few weeks ago, Emily called me in tears. She'd been let go from her job as a barista after the cafe she worked at downsized. She said she didn't know what she was going to do, that her savings were minimal, and that she had no one else to turn to. My heart immediately went out to her. I offered to let her crash at my place for a week while she figured things out. I didn't want her to be homeless, and I thought a week would be manageable. When she arrived, I realized pretty quickly that things were not going to go smoothly. She brought most of her belongings with her, claiming she needed a home base for a while. She also seemed to expect me to help her financially, even for things that weren't urgent. She borrowed money for groceries, then for gas, and even asked if she could use my credit card to pay a few bills because she didn't have enough cash. I told her that I could help her with groceries and maybe some gas, but I wasn't comfortable lending her money for bills. That set her off a little, but I thought it was just stress talking. The bigger problem was her lack of boundaries. She treated my apartment like it was a shared space rather than my home. She left her dishes in the sink for days, used my shampoo and toiletries without asking, and stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m. playing video games and watching TV. I work from home, and her presence was making it really hard for me to focus. When I tried to bring this up, she got defensive, saying that I was being controlling and unsisterly. I tried to set some rules like cleaning up after herself, not using my things without asking, and keeping the noise down, but it felt like nothing I said mattered. After about a week, she told me she couldn't find a job and wanted to stay indefinitely until she got back on her feet. I was honest with her and said I didn't think that was going to work. I explained that I needed my own space and that I wasn't willing to support her living here for an extended period. She reacted very poorly. She cried, yelled, and accused me of being selfish. She said that as her sister, it was my duty to help her no matter what, and that I was choosing my comfort over her survival. I tried to compromise by offering to help her find temporary housing elsewhere, help her apply for unemployment, and assist with her resume and job search. I even offered to help cover a security deposit if she found a place, but she said that wasn't enough. She claimed that no one else would take care of her like I should, and she said that if I really cared about family, I'd let her stay. My parents are aware of the situation, and they agree with me. They've said that I shouldn't feel obligated to house her indefinitely, but Emily has been calling and texting them, framing me as the villain who doesn't care about her. This has caused a lot of tension in the family, with my parents trying to stay neutral but clearly frustrated with Emily's behavior. I feel bad because I do care about her, but I also feel trapped. My apartment is my sanctuary, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace, finances, and personal boundaries for an uncertain amount of time. I've offered support in other ways that don't involve living together, but she refuses to accept them. The last argument ended with her packing up some of her things in a huff and storming out, saying she'd figure it out, but that I would regret treating her this way. I haven't spoken to her since, but I feel a mix of relief and guilt. I keep wondering if I'm being cruel or selfish for refusing to let her stay, even though I know that I can't manage a long-term arrangement with her in my home. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after she lost her job? Character count, 6,172. AITA for refusing to let my younger brother name his child after my late dog, even though he insists it's a family tradition. This all started about a month ago when my younger brother, Jake, announced that he and his wife were expecting their first child. I'm 28, Jake is 25, and we've always had a pretty close but competitive relationship. I tend to think of myself as the responsible, reasonable one, while Jake has always leaned more toward impulsive decisions and bold statements that sometimes cross boundaries. Anyway, Jake's wife, Emily, suggested they start thinking about names for the baby. I didn't think much of it at first, but then Jake casually mentioned, "I think we should name the baby Bailey." My heart sank. Bailey was the name of my dog who had passed away 2 years ago. Bailey wasn't just a pet. He was a huge part of my life. He'd been with me through college, my first serious breakup, and some of the hardest moments of my life. Losing him was devastating, and I never got over how much he meant to me. I told Jake how uncomfortable I felt with him naming a human baby after my dog. I explained that while I understood people name kids after family members or meaningful things, this felt different because Bailey was essentially a replacement for something that wasn't human. I also shared that it would be emotionally jarring for me to hear someone call out Bailey in reference to a human and not think of my dog. Jake laughed it off. "Come on, it's just a name. You're being dramatic. Besides, Bailey isn't your dog anymore, it's ours. This is a family tradition thing now." I asked him to clarify, and he said that our mom had always joked that her first grandchild should be named after Bailey because he was basically part of the family. I was shocked. My mom never mentioned this to me before, and it honestly felt like she was siding with him. I told him firmly that I wasn't okay with it. He got defensive, saying, "You're being selfish. It's not like you own the name." I tried to explain that it wasn't about ownership. It was about emotional attachment and respect for memories. He shrugged and said, "Well, you can just deal with it. We're naming the baby Bailey." I left the conversation frustrated and hurt. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. Emily seemed a little sympathetic, but didn't push the issue, probably because she didn't want to upset Jake. Meanwhile, Jake started posting all over social media about excited to meet our little Bailey and tagging our mom in every post. I confronted my mom about it, asking her to talk to him, but she told me she thought I was overreacting and that it was just a name. I started thinking more seriously about my options. I could try to insist legally, but it's complicated and probably not enforceable. I also considered cutting myself off from baby-related events or visits because I knew it would hurt too much to be around a child called Bailey. I voiced these concerns to my friends, and they were split. Some said I was justified. Others said I had to accept that Jake and Emily have the right to make this choice. Things came to a head at a family dinner last weekend. Jake brought up the baby again, excitedly talking about baby Bailey's nursery colors and little outfits. I quietly told him that I couldn't celebrate a name that meant so much to me being used this way. Jake snapped and said I was being ridiculous and controlling. Our mom jumped in, saying, "It's only fair. He's naming his child whatever he wants." I lost my cool and said that fairness doesn't mean erasing other people's feelings, especially when it comes to something so personal. The dinner ended awkwardly. I left early, furious, and since then I haven't been on speaking terms with Jake. I reached out to Emily separately, hoping we could talk things through, but she said she didn't want to get in the middle of family drama. Our mom has been calling me to stop being dramatic, and my friends are split on whether I'm right or not. Part of me feels like I should let it go because legally and socially, Jake and Emily can name their kid whatever they want. But another part of me feels like this is an emotional boundary that they're completely ignoring. Bailey was more than a name. It was a person in my life, a companion who shaped me, and now I feel like my grief and memories are being trivialized. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother name his child after my late dog? I don't want to cause a permanent rift, but I also don't want to have to pretend everything is fine when this feels so wrong to me. I feel like if this were about a human family member, people would understand why I'm upset, but because it's a dog, everyone seems to think I'm overreacting. I just want to know if I'm being unreasonable or if I have a valid point here. Character count, 6,398. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée stay at my house after she made a huge scene at my wedding. This is going to be long, but I need to lay out the full story so people can understand. I, 28F, recently got married to my partner, Alex, 30M. We've been together for 6 years and planned our wedding for over a year. My younger brother, Matt, 25M, has been dating his now fiancée, Rachel, 27F, for about 2 years. Now, I have a pretty big family, and I made it a priority to make everyone feel included at the wedding. Matt and Rachel were invited, and I made sure to have a +1 for each of my friends. Everything was going smoothly until the day of the rehearsal dinner. The rehearsal dinner was at a local restaurant, fairly casual but nice. We had about 40 people there, immediate family, and a few close friends. Rachel got visibly upset when she found out the seating arrangement didn't place her next to Matt. She started whispering to him and gesturing angrily. I tried to calm her down, but she ignored me and eventually stormed out of the restaurant. Matt followed her to try and talk to her, leaving me to handle our parents, who were confused and upset. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going perfectly until the reception. Rachel apparently told Matt that I had deliberately made him and her feel unwelcome, and she decided to make her feelings known. During the reception, as I was giving my speech, she stood up and loudly accused me of ruining their relationship and playing favorites with my family. People were shocked. My speech was cut off. Alex was trying to calm me down, and my parents were mortified. Matt didn't intervene. He just looked embarrassed and told Rachel to sit down, but she refused for several minutes. Eventually, security had to escort her to another area. After the wedding, I had to deal with a lot of family fallout. Some relatives tried to say I overreacted or that I should apologize to Rachel. I refused because I didn't do anything wrong. She was being deliberately disruptive in the middle of my wedding. Matt was mad at me for not speaking to Rachel afterward, saying I should have smoothed things over. I refused, telling him that her behavior was unacceptable and I wasn't going to reward it. Here's where things get sticky. A month after the wedding, Matt called me out of the blue. He said that he and Rachel were planning a trip to our city and asked if Rachel could stay at my place for a few days because their hotel reservations fell through. I told him absolutely not. Not only had she caused a scene at my wedding, but I wasn't comfortable hosting someone who had treated me like that in my own home. Matt got furious. He told me I was being immature and that I should forgive Rachel because everyone makes mistakes, and it's been a month. He even suggested that I was prioritizing my feelings over family harmony. I told him that yes, I am prioritizing my feelings, and he can find another place to stay. Since then, the rest of my family has been divided. My parents think I should let her stay and just get over it. My sister, who wasn't married at the time, sided with me, saying Rachel's behavior was completely inappropriate and I shouldn't be forced to host someone who had publicly humiliated me. Some cousins think I'm being petty. Matt has stopped talking to me, for the most part. He's told mutual friends that I hate his fiancée and don't care about family. I feel like that's unfair because I don't hate her. I just don't feel comfortable having her in my home after how she behaved. I keep thinking back to how disrespectful she was at my wedding, and I just can't see why I should be obligated to host someone who caused me that much stress. On the other hand, part of me wonders if I'm being unreasonable and refusing to forgive her is making me rigid and hurting my relationship with Matt. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's fiancée stay at my house after what happened at my wedding? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend live in my house for a few months and causing a huge family feud? I, 28F, have always been pretty independent. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent part of the city. A couple of months ago, my younger sister, Jenna, 24F, asked me if her boyfriend, Mark, 26M, could stay at my place for a few months because he supposedly lost his job and didn't want to crash with his parents. I didn't know much about Mark other than the occasional text Jenna would send me about him, but I'd met him a handful of times and he seemed fine, I guess. At first, I was hesitant, but I tried to be understanding. I told Jenna I'd think about it, and she assured me that he would be out as soon as he got a new job. After a few days of thinking, I told her that I couldn't really commit to a months-long arrangement because my space is small, I work from home, and I need privacy. I suggested he could stay at a nearby hostel or maybe look into subletting a room somewhere temporarily. Jenna said she understood, but seemed visibly upset. 2 weeks later, Jenna calls me crying, saying Mark has nowhere to go, and she begged me again. She made it sound like this was an emergency, that Mark would be homeless, and that I'm the only person who could help. I told her I still couldn't have him stay for months. I offered to help him find an apartment, even offered to cover part of the deposit if it helped speed things along. Jenna called me cold and said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, and that family is supposed to help each other. Things escalated a bit after that. Jenna showed up at my apartment unannounced with Mark in tow. She tried to argue that since my lease allowed me to have guests, it wasn't really against the rules to let him stay. I calmly explained that the lease rule didn't mean I had to invite someone to live here indefinitely. Mark seemed uncomfortable, but he didn't say much. I told them both again that I couldn't host him long-term, and Jenna accused me of playing favorites and said I was going to regret it. I asked them to leave, and after a long, awkward conversation, they finally went. Fast forward a week, and my phone starts blowing up with messages from my extended family. Apparently, Jenna has been telling everyone that I'm heartless and refusing to help someone in need. My parents called, upset, saying I should put myself in their shoes and be more compassionate. I tried to explain my side calmly, that I don't mind helping financially or helping him find a place, but I can't host someone for months. But they weren't really receptive. Things got worse when Mark somehow got a short-term sublet in the same neighborhood. Jenna posted on social media about how selfish I am and tagged a bunch of family members. Some of my cousins even messaged me privately, saying I should just let him stay to keep the peace. Meanwhile, my apartment has been a bit of a mess emotionally. Every time I step in, I feel like I'm under scrutiny, like my decisions are being judged. I like my space, and I've always been proud of maintaining a boundary between my life and my family's drama. I love my sister, and I do help her when I can, but I feel like this crossed a line. The most recent blow-up came when my sister's birthday came around. Jenna didn't invite me to her small gathering, and when I asked why, she said it was because I don't support her relationship with Mark. My parents texted me again, saying I should make amends. I offered to meet Jenna one-on-one to talk, but she ignored the messages. Now, I'm feeling really frustrated and guilty because my family has turned against me, but I also feel like I have a right to say no. I've been thinking about whether I should have handled it differently. I could have tried harder to make space for Mark temporarily, but I don't think it was fair for them to assume I'd just open my home for months with almost no notice. On the other hand, I can't help but feel like maybe I am being selfish in the eyes of my family. I've already offered other forms of help, like helping him find a place and financially assisting a deposit, but none of that seems to matter. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend live in my apartment for months? Or am I justified in protecting my space and boundaries? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he insulted my cooking? So, this is going to be a bit long, but I feel like context matters here. I, 28F, live alone in a modest apartment in the city. I've always loved cooking, and over the years I've honed my skills enough that friends and family often tell me my meals could rival a small restaurant. It's kind of a passion of mine, and I genuinely enjoy having people over for dinner. Now, my sister, 30F, is getting married in a few months. She and her fiancé, let's call him Jason, 32M, have been dating for about 3 years. I've always gotten along with Jason well enough, but he's difficult sometimes. He can be critical and has a very particular way he likes things done, especially when it comes to food. My sister has often mentioned that it's challenging to cook for him because he'll comment on every little detail, which I found frustrating but didn't really experience myself until recently. Last week, my sister called me asking if she and Jason could stay at my apartment for a couple of nights. Their apartment is under renovation, and apparently some work got delayed, so they needed a temporary place. I live in a one-bedroom, but I said yes because I love my sister and figured we could make it work. I also decided to cook dinner for them the first night because, again, I enjoy cooking for people I care about. Here's where things went wrong. I made a fairly elaborate meal. Roasted chicken with a honey mustard glaze, a side of garlic mashed potatoes, and a salad with a homemade vinaigrette. I set the table, lit a candle, and tried to make a nice evening. When Jason sat down, he immediately started picking apart the food. He said the chicken was too dry, the potatoes were too buttery, and the salad dressing was too tangy. I tried to brush it off and offered to adjust things if he wanted, but he continued to critique every single element of the meal. It wasn't constructive. It was just mean-spirited. At one point, he said, "Honestly, I don't understand how you can call yourself a good cook if this is what you make." I was shocked and hurt. I don't think I've ever been spoken to like that about something I put so much effort into. I ended up finishing the meal in silence, trying not to let it ruin the evening. Afterward, I told my sister privately that I didn't appreciate how Jason spoke to me and that I needed him to apologize. My sister said she understood but seemed to downplay it, saying he's just particular and doesn't mean anything by it. I felt like that was letting him off the hook for being outright rude. The next day, Jason asked if I could make breakfast. I politely declined, saying I didn't feel comfortable cooking for him after the way he spoke the night before. He got upset and said I was being dramatic and too sensitive. I told him that it wasn't about sensitivity, it was about basic respect. He rolled his eyes and said I was overreacting. Things escalated quickly. That evening, my sister told me that Jason was unhappy staying at my place and wanted to leave. I told my sister that I wasn't going to kick her out, but I also wasn't going to let Jason continue to stay after the way he treated me. My sister got really upset, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I should just get over it for a few days. I told her I couldn't compromise my own boundaries just to make her fiancé comfortable, and that if he couldn't respect me, he shouldn't be in my home. My sister started crying and accused me of being selfish and sabotaging her relationship. She said that I was choosing my feelings over her happiness and that I should be more understanding of Jason. I tried to explain that understanding doesn't mean tolerating being insulted, but she said I was being impossible. Jason, for his part, has been silent since he left, posting vague things on social media implying that I was hostile and made them feel unwelcome. Now, other family members are involved. My parents are upset with me, saying I should have just put up with Jason for a couple of days. Some friends think I overreacted, but others are telling me that I was completely justified and that no one has the right to insult you in your own home. My sister hasn't spoken to me much since then and keeps making comments on social media about how families should support each other. I feel conflicted because I love my sister, but I also feel like my boundaries and dignity were completely disrespected. I don't regret standing up for myself, but the backlash has been intense. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he insulted my cooking. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a family secret. I, 28F, have always had a strained relationship with my older sister, Emily, 32F, though I try to keep things civil. Growing up, Emily was the golden child, straight A's, star athlete, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. I was more of a free spirit, creative but less academically inclined. Our differences didn't really bother me until last year, when a family secret came to light that completely shifted my perspective. Here's some background. Our parents have been married for over 35 years, and while they've never been secretive in the usual sense, they have some things they never talked about. One of those things involved our father's first marriage. Before marrying our mother, he had another wife and a child. I knew about the first marriage, but not the child. It turns out that child, my half-sibling, has been living in the same city as us for a few years, completely unknown to my sister. I accidentally discovered this through social media when I was searching for distant relatives for a genealogy project. I reached out to my half-sibling, we'll call him Jack, 30M, and we got to talking. He's incredibly kind and easy to get along with, and I started spending some time with him. I wanted to tell my parents I knew, but when I did, they freaked out and told me not to bring it up to Emily or anyone else. According to them, it's not the right time, but they wouldn't explain why. Here's where things get messy. Emily got engaged a few months ago, and the wedding planning is in full swing. I was invited, obviously, but I started feeling uneasy. I realized that if Emily met Jack, or if she somehow discovered he exists at the wedding, she might feel blindsided and hurt, or worse, she could lash out at him. Emily has a history of being very controlling and sometimes manipulative when she feels her life is threatened or disrupted. I told my parents I wasn't comfortable attending the wedding while this secret was still floating around. They argued with me for hours, saying that I was overreacting and that Emily would never find out. So it's none of my business to bring it up. My father even said, family secrets are part of life, and you need to learn to live with them. I tried explaining that it's more than just a secret. It's a moral responsibility. I can't just sit there knowing my sister could be blindsided in the most public way possible. I offered a compromise. I could attend the rehearsal dinner or the small pre-wedding events where Emily wouldn't meet Jack, but I couldn't attend the main wedding ceremony. My parents called this ridiculous and accused me of trying to ruin Emily's big day. They told me that if I didn't go, I was choosing my own drama over family unity. So I didn't go. On the day of the wedding, I stayed home and tried to distract myself, but I couldn't stop thinking about what might happen if Emily found out mid-ceremony or during photos. Later that night, my parents called me furious. They said Emily cried for hours and apparently told everyone I couldn't handle family and was bitter about being overshadowed. Emily hasn't spoken to me since. Some of my friends say I overstepped and should have gone to support my sister no matter what, because weddings are one day and secrets can wait. Others think I was right to protect Jack and prevent a potentially traumatic revelation. I feel trapped between loyalty to my sister and loyalty to doing the right thing. I don't want to destroy my relationship with Emily, but I also feel like attending the wedding would have been dishonest and possibly harmful. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of this family secret? The story is over 6,000 characters, written in a way that mirrors popular AITA posts, with conflict, moral ambiguity, and a relatable emotional struggle. If you want, I can write another story in a completely different scenario that's even longer, pushing closer to 7,000 characters. This one is about family secrets. Next could be a friendship betrayal or neighbor drama story. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.